I'm Driti Atri, you're watching Times XP and welcome to the top US news. In the United States, even a small traffic violation can sometimes lead to life-changing consequences, specifically for those living in the country without legal documents. Immigration rules have become really strict in recent times, and the story of a 19-year-old college student in Georgia shows just how serious the situation has become. This case is not just about a traffic violation, it's about immigration, identity, and what it means to live in America without legal status. Many families who have lived in the US for years, sometimes over decades, are suddenly being forced to leave, and this growing issue is now being seen in towns, schools, and neighborhoods across the country. Let's talk about Gemina Arias. Gemina Arias is a 19-year-old student who was pulled over by the police in Georgia after making a right turn at a red light without stopping properly. When the police asked her for her driver's license, she said that she had an international one but had forgotten it at home. After checking further, officers found out that she didn't have a valid license at all. But things got even more serious when they discovered that Gemina was living in the US without any legal immigration status. Gemina came to the US from Mexico with her family when she was just 4 years of age. Her family has now been living in the US without documents for over 15 years. Despite growing up here, Gemina is not eligible for DACA program, which offers temporary legal protection to undocumented children. Her parents arrived just after the deadline to apply, so she never qualified. This means that she has no legal protection and could now be deported anytime. Let's talk about something that's starting to worry a lot of American businesses, specifically in places that depends on tourists. Fewer Canadians are coming to visit the United States this year, and that's causing real problems for local shops, hotels, and restaurants. You might be surprised to learn that Canada is the #1 source of international visitors to the US. In fact, in 2023, more than 14 million Canadians crossed the border for a vacation or shopping trip. They spent billions of dollars, yes, billions we are talking about, in cities like New York, Florida, California, and specifically in beach towns like Virginia Beach. Now, what changed? So recently, relationship between the two, US and Canada, have gotten really tense. Some of it is due to trade disagreements. Some of it comes from political comments like President Donald Trump's jokingly referring to Canada as 51st state. Even though it might sound like a joke to some, many Canadians didn't find it funny. Because of these tensions, a lot of Canadians are saying that maybe we shouldn't go to the US this year. And that's showing in the numbers. In several US cities, the number of Canadian tourists is down by 10 to 20%, and in some areas, even more. Let's look at Virginia Beach here. Virginia Beach is a favorite summer spot for Canadians, specifically people from Ontario and Quebec. It's not too far to drive, and the hotels are cheaper than big cities. And yes, the beach is beautiful. But now, local business owners are starting to worry. In 2023, Canadian visitors brought in about $28 million to the Virginia Beach economy. That money helped pay for local services and keep over 38,000 people employed in tourism-related jobs like hotel staff, tour guides, shop workers, or even shop owners. In fact, there's a hotel owner near the beach who says that she's nervous. If Canadians stop coming, we lose a big part of our business. A woman in Florida recently moved into a new apartment in Tampa. Everything was fine at first, but then she noticed a very strong smell in her home. What did she think it was? Indian food. Yes, she wrote online that her apartment smells like curry, and she believes that it's coming from her neighbors who are cooking. She said she loved Indian food, but the smell was too much. She even added air purifiers, plugged in air fresheners, and opened the gates for hours. But still, she couldn't stop the smell from getting into everything. Now, let's pause for a moment. Indian food is famous all around the globe. Why? Because it's full of flavors, rich in spices, and made with love. Dishes like butter chicken, biryani, dal, and samosas don't just feed the stomach, it feeds the soul. So, of course, it smells really strong, and that's what good about the food is. But instead of asking the neighbors nicely or learning about the culture, this woman rushed to social media. And guess what happened? People online quickly asked, does it actually stinks or does it just smell like curry? Well, that's a fair question, right? Because smelly and curry aroma are not the same. Some users felt that her post sounded a little unfair, and even though she kept saying, I love Indian food, but here's the thing, loving Indian food also means understanding that it comes with powerful smell. That's just how real spices really work. Let's be clear here. If her neighbors were cooking garlic bread or a barbecue, would she still complain about the smell? Probably not. Or why is Indian food always treated like a problem? The H-1B visa program is meant to bring skilled workers into the US to help with jobs in tech and other industries. For many professionals, it's the only chance to build a better life. But for some, this journey has become full of delays and problems. Companies are not always accountable, and legal issues often get in the way, making their life really difficult. Well, one such case involves a Bangalore software engineer who was selected in the H-1B lottery in 2022 by CGI. His visa was approved and stamped in January 2023, and he was all set to leave for the US in April. However, just a few weeks before his departure, the project that he was supposed to work on was cancelled. Well, this situation couldn't have come at a worse time. The engineer and his wife had already vacated their rented apartment, and his wife had quit her job to accompany him. Both had to return to India and rebuild their lives from the scratch. But that wasn't the end of the journey. In 2024, he received another opportunity from an American consultancy. They informed him that his visa was still valid and switched his H-1B to other company. He moved to the US once more, but the experience was far from smooth. The new job turned out to be a very toxic one. There was toxic work environment that took a toll on his health. He began job hunting again and received offers from other companies like AAA. After much thought, he decided to join the company. He submitted all the necessary paperwork and waited for nearly 4 months. Then he received another shock. The company informed him that they would not proceed with his H-1B due to potential legal issues, including the need for new visa stamping. By this time, he had already leased an apartment in Atlanta and was in the process of making relocation plans. Well, the emotional and financial strain was immense. Priya Saxena, an Indian student from South Dakota mines, stood really tall at her graduation ceremony, earning 2 degrees, one in chemical and biological engineering and another one in chemical engineering. Her achievement, however, was far from ordinary. It came after a long and stressful battle against effort by the US government to deport her. Well, the trouble began when the US Department of Homeland Security, under the leadership of Kristi Noem, set to revoke Priya's stay into the US. They based their decision on a very minor incident from 4 years ago. Priya had failed to stop for flashing yellow light, a very non-serious traffic offense. Well, despite the fact that Priya's student visa was valid until 2027, this led to effort to have her deported. Noem's Department of Homeland Security, as part of its larger push for immigration policy, targeted international students, and Priya was caught in the middle. The situation quickly became a nightmare for her and many other international students, as they feared being sent back to their home countries over minor infractions. But Priya wasn't ready to give up. She fought back, filing a lawsuit against Noem and the Department of Homeland Security. In her lawsuit, she argued that her conviction didn't qualify as a deportable offense. She had disclosed the charges when applying for her visa, and she had complied with all the immigration rules. She also expressed that she had not been involved in any sort of political activities or any controversial public matter that would warrant such action. But let me tell you, the legal battle went in Priya's favor when a judge temporarily blocked any effort to deport her, giving her a chance to graduate. Now, this temporary win meant that Priya was able to walk across the stage and receive her degree, and that too in front of her friends, family, and classmates. Well, the situation at the graduation ceremony was kinda tense. Kristi Noem, who had pushed for stricter immigration policy, was also at the event receiving an honorary degree from Dakota State University. However, her presence was not without any controversy. As Noem took the stage, she was met with loud protests from students and faculty members who disapproved of her role in pushing mass deportation effort. Outside the ceremony, protesters gathered in large numbers chanting, "No honor for Noem," and calling her cruel. Many students voiced their concerns, specifically international students we are talking about, fearing that Noem's policies were a threat to their future in the US. One protester even mentioned their fear of the impact on the international student community, particularly those from countries like India and Vietnam. A student on STEM OPT was returning from a short 3-week trip abroad when something really unexpected happened. At San Francisco Airport, United States of America, even though they had no criminal history, no issue with their travel, and no political background, they were pulled into a separate room for questioning. The student wasn't accused of anything serious, by the way, just asked serious questions like where they had been, why they left the US, and what their job was. Although the questioning wasn't really aggressive, it still made the student wonder why they were stopped for an interview out of the blue. Now, more and more students are coming forward with similar stories, including Indians. Some have been sent for secondary inspection when they first returned to the US on STEM OPT. Others faced it when there were delays in the airport system. Though some people say that it's quite normal, specifically during busy times, it's still an uncomfortable experience for many. In the meantime, designated school officials, DSOs, the people who guide international students, say that getting sent for secondary inspection is becoming more common these days. It's not always that officers are suspicious, but because it helps avoid holding up the main line. The questions they ask are usually really basic and standard. However, for many F1 and STEM OPT students, even a simple interview at the airport can feel like a risk. A short, simple trip can quickly become really stressful with this routine questioning. With everything happening today, international students, including many from India, may feel worried every single time that they travel, unsure if something like a minor would turn into a big issue in the US. Sarthak Ahuja, an Indian banker, was checking into a hotel in New York. While talking to a hotel worker who looked South Asian, he casually asked, "Where are you from?" The man replied, "Gujarat." Now, this could mean the Indian state of Gujarat, right? But there is also a city called Gujarat in Pakistan. You know what? Sarthak felt the man was probably from Pakistan, but he said Gujarat to avoid explaining more. Well, the small moment made Sarthak think. He had seen something similar before. During his visit to the US, to the UK, Canada, and Europe, he realized that this was not just one random moment. It's a part of a bigger trend. Let me tell you what's happening. Sarthak believes that many Pakistanis living in other countries sometimes pretend to be Indian. Why? Because they feel shy or embarrassed to say that they are from Pakistan. It's not because they hate their country, it's because of how people around the globe see Pakistan. Sadly, Pakistan is often linked with terrorism, poverty, or political instability in the global media. On the other hand, India is seen as a rising power with big companies, strong tech industries, Bollywood, yoga, and growing economy. So, saying that you're Indian often leads to better reactions from the strangers who are there abroad. Sarthak has also shared another example, by the way. In countries like the UK and Saudi Arabia, many restaurants that are called Indian are actually owned by Pakistanis. They cook similar food like biryani, naan, butter chicken, so most people can't even tell the difference. But they brand the restaurant as Indian because the Indian tag helps attract more customers. It's not a lie to make money, by the way. It's just a way to avoid the bias and just to fit in more easily into the society. But why is this happening? Let's break it down. First of all comes global image. India is seen as a modern and fast growing. Pakistan is often in the news for political or economic problems. Then comes the history. India and Pakistan were one country before 1947, so the cultures, languages, and the food are very similar. Then, safety abroad, of course, very important. Some people fear being judged or treated badly if they say that they are Pakistanis, specifically in the Western country. But yes, it's not just about hate. Sarthak made it very clear that he is not trying to spread hate among Pakistanis. He respects people from both the sides of the border. His post is more about how India's good image is helping not just Indians but also others from South Asia, and how powerful is India's reputation. And also he ended with Jai Hind, showing his pride in being Indian but without disrespecting anybody else. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates.